Hello there. This is Jeff Hansen in Silicon Valley, California.
This is Arvin Paredes in Los Angeles, California.
And together we have a combined 40 years full-time real estate experience and are gnarled veterans. We've done things right, done some things wrong, learned a lot, and want to share. So today's topic, Arvin, are you ready?
I'm ready. Give it to me.
Here's the question: whether or not to take an overpriced listing.
Ah,
You heard that right.
wow.
Take an overpriced listing
Wow.
or not. And there are, in my experience, kind of two schools of thought. I've been to trainers that say it's got to sell in 2 weeks or a few weeks, or don't bother. You don't waste your time on it. And I've had other people, like a kind of a mentor for me was a guy named Jim Jarose, who was a trainer that was very successful in the 80s. And his attitude was, it's good to have a listing. It's a good thing to have a listing. So those are kind of the two extremes. One thing I can say for sure is what's bad is having an overpriced listing where they blame you, or you're on the hot seat because you're not doing things right and it's your fault that it's not selling.
Right.
Now, I'll share, maybe I can start off with just my 2 cents on this, which is I tend to err, over the course of my career, more on I'll take the listing if there are people that seem to appreciate me. I mean, generally they don't hire you unless they kind of appreciate you, as long as you're not pushing them too hard. But if they really want to hire you, if they do have some real motivation to sell, generally, like there's a reason that it makes sense. It's not just, I mean, I haven't had this happen if someone said, if I ever got this price, I'll sell. You can throw it on the market, do what you want. No, people that are invested, they've taken some time and energy to get the house ready for sale, and they're invested in the process, right? Like if it's a
Yeah.
condo, they pay for the HOA documents up front or something like that, right? They have a little skin in the game.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm of the thought of just what this trainer Jim Droz said, which is you're better having a sign in the yard, you're better having a marketing opportunity, something you can post on social media. And in my experience, if they appreciate what you're doing and you're giving good service, even if it takes a while, and they do have to reduce the price in the future, um, they'll stick with me. Or that's my experience. I can't think of a sale or a listing where it just didn't sell because it was priced too high and they never came down. And sometimes I've been surprised, like, you're not always right. Sometimes I didn't think they'd get a price that they really wanted, and they got it or close to it. So, it's not like it's 100% guaranteed that we're experts or we can know factually exactly what something will sell for. But as long as they have, and obviously I go out of my way to make sure that I make them aware, well, I don't feel like that's the right price, but it's your asset. I'll consult with you, but if you really want to take a stand on this price, I'll go after it. But I want you to, as long as you understand, I don't think it's based on the comps that's reasonable, right? If they understand that and they're still willing to go to battle, and I have a sense of, then that it just means it might take a little longer.
Right.
And I've had success with them. And that also, you have to have a marketing plan that means you're going to market for more than some weeks, right? It could take a little bit of time. But I've had people in slow markets, where this one house in an upscale community here in San Jose, where this is like 2011, they were overpriced. They kept following the market down, following the market down. At that time, it was probably $1.6 million, which was a good price at that time. And but that was they were happy with me. I'd talk to them, keep them up to date, call them every week. Here's what's going on. We did this, we did that, and I got some business from it too. It was good to have my name out there. But eventually, it did sell. I mean, they would have gotten more if they would have priced correctly in the beginning. But that's their choice, right? It's their asset. You can't force them. The other thing is, if you try and force people into a price that's too low, that they feel is low, and then they get that quickly, then you're stuck because they feel like, oh, I made that mistake early in my career too. What say you, Arvin, on this subject?
I think when it comes to something like this, I do think about the famous and much quoted Wayne Gretzky quote: "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take." I I think because we have had situations where maybe we didn't agree on price with the seller, and because they wanted something higher, and they went with an agent that told them that they'll just go with that price, and decided to work with that agent instead. Later on, seeing that list price get reduced and reduced, and then finally selling, I just feel like you got to get yourself in the game. You got to get yourself, in a relationship with the clients. And sometimes it's not going to be always positive if you have to ask them to adjust the price. but the fact that you are able to communicate with them and get to a hopefully work to a point where the place will sell, whether you come out with battle scars or not, I think is very important. And I think the longer I am in real estate, the more important I know how important it is to get your sign in the yard, whether it's an overpriced listing or not, to have that opportunity to mail out all the mailers you want, to contact all the neighbors to let them know you have a listing, to go door knocking to let them know you have a listing, all the doors that I can possibly open. If this doesn't sell, or if they fire you because they want to go with someone else that's telling them that their home is worth this much instead, then at least you had the opportunity to go market yourself and possibly get more business.
You're pretty passionate about this.
Well, I do remember a place that I helped sell that it was probably my third or fourth transaction with them. And every 2 weeks, there was like one showing or two showings. And I told them that it wasn't going to sell for that price. And that I said, let's come up with a plan so that we can, adjust our strategy, our pricing strategy as the weeks go on. But even though they agree with that in the beginning, they're like, yeah, let's do that. Once you're in it, all the emotions come into play. The numbers, when you start seeing numbers go down and they're thinking about their proceeds are going down, they're thinking about the next steps and stuff, that all changes too after that initial conversation. So it doesn't feel good as an agent to tell your clients, hey, remember what I said before? We need to adjust because we're not getting the action or the activity that we need to sell this place. And then there is a kind of a push pull. And then you're like, okay, let's try it for one more week if you don't want to adjust. And you kind of are like, oh man, what if this just falls apart and they want to take it off the market, which obviously is a possibility. But yeah, I think it's better that as an agent that you're in those conversations.
And if they are going to, if you're in good rapport with people, I made this mistake early in my career to kind of lose rapport basically by not being in touch often enough. But if you're in good rapport and they see that you're working hard, that gives you the credibility to be able to say, hey, I know that we're marketing it like crazy. I've done open houses, it's posts on social media, I'm following up on every showing. I feel like you need to talk to people minimum once a week. I've had listings in a very slow market that took a year to sell, but I talked to them every single week. Even if it was, well, there was no showing this week, but this happened. Here's a comp that came up. Here's what's happening. Interest rates change. Something is going on. I did this to actively market. I continue to put it in the MLS. I changed a photo. I did something, right? So they see that you're working. If they don't feel like you're working, you don't have the credibility to even suggest that they adjust the price. But they know that you're working hard and it's not your fault it's not working, then the only other factor, and the condition is good and other things we've done the best we can, the other variable we can change is the price, and you've earned the credibility to, in their eyes, to do that. Or if they decide not to sell, when the market changed in 2008, I had multiple listings where they decided not to sell, and I said I support that decision. And then when they decided to sell years later, they used me because they're happy with the job that I did, even though it didn't get sold that time, because they knew it was the market, it wasn't me. And the price they wanted, they wanted to hold out for that. And I supported that. So that's fine. I want whatever is good for you. Now, one element there is you can't be too tied up financially in the listing either. If you've pumped in thousands and thousands of dollars in staging, or some agents do repairs out of their own, or they pay up front for reports of different things, then it's really painful because you're an investor with them. So I've worked not to tie up a ton of money other than the marketing, which is worth doing because you're going to get more business from that too. And you can show other sellers, here's what I'm doing. Now, if it's in your neighborhood that you're trying to farm, that's where I heard Gary Keller on stage once say, I would take a listing for 0.5% if it's in my farm area. He wouldn't publicize that, but his point was, if it's in your farm, you just want every listing no matter what, right?
Right.
But even if it's on your farm, I would say take it and work with it. Now, a flip side we might discuss in the future is, what about working with buyers who, I guess the flip side wouldn't be the price, but an unmotivated buyer, right? We might want to save that for another conversation. That's its own topic, but it's certainly related. But it's good to have clients with the caveat that you don't want them to be a total drain on your time, energy, or just your psyche. You don't want people that are beating you down where they see that it's your fault. So, which I haven't experienced in many, many years, even when things take a while to sell.
Yeah.
One of my first brokerages was a company that doesn't exist anymore called Cornish and Carey. Our manager gave out these pencils that said, "I'm a listing fool." And when you took a listing, you got a I'm a listing fool pencil. It was I don't know where she came up with this, but everybody wanted an I'm a listing fool pencil. So for everybody listening, be a listing fool, go do it, make it happen, get that listing, take it, and work it until it sells.
That's right. Oh, and for those that are getting together with family and friends for Easter this week, if you don't have a lot of things to talk about, I say bring up ask people what they think about the real estate market or the economy and start getting in conversations. Use this opportunity to see if how the temperature is of your friends and family of buying or selling their home.
Totally.
Yeah.
And share a quick story. Hey,
Share a
by the
quick
way, I
story.
just saw this house. I previewed this home. I worked with a buyer. I showed a home. I was meeting with the seller. A little anecdote shows that you're active and successful.
Yep.
Okay. Have a great day, Arvin.
All right. Take care.
Ciao.